Good morning. We are broadcasting from Ministry Partners right here at Greenville First. And as we do each week, we want to make sure that we thank these guys for allowing us to use their space and their equipment. If you joined us for the first time this morning, hey, welcome. Let me introduce you to who I am. My name is Andrew, and my wife, along with a team of great people, we're planting a Radiant Church set to launch this fall in the Seneca, Clemson area of South Carolina. If you're watching us from Facebook or YouTube, I want to invite you, when this is all over, to head to our website. Go to radiantchurchsc.com and let us know that you'll watch the video. You can learn more information about who we are, and then you can fill out a contact form. I would love to get the chance to have a Zoom call or a phone call with you and tell you more about who we are as a church. Now, for those of you who are on our launch team already, do us a favor. Whenever you view this message, share it to your social pages, okay? Talk to us in the comments, react and like the post, start watch parties. We want all of you to engage with the message as much as possible. Have you ever scrolled through your news feed or watched Instagram stories and thought, wow, like that family over there, man, they have it all together. Our family's nowhere near those guys. Now, as crazy as it sounds, there's a lot of pressure on us to build the perfect family, especially on social media. Like we see other families who think they have it all together. You know, we start wishing that our kids would take the pictures their kids take. And we start thinking, wow, I wish I had the fancy holiday setup that our friends had for their families. And, you know, our marriage is not nearly as exciting as their marriage. Did you see where they went this week? But there's another side to our search for the perfect family, and it's one with roots to our own past and our own upbringing. Maybe things were really unstable for us growing up. You know, our parents constantly fought, or maybe one of them walked out. Our brothers and sisters may have had messed up lives. Maybe you came from an environment where all you knew was just chaos and instability and tension. And you cringe every time you hear the word family because it brings up all those kinds of memories that you're actually trying to forget. But did you know the number one thing that 70% of Americans wish they had for their family, outside of wealth, of course, right, was stability? People want strong, healthy, stable families, but only 3 out of 10 say their families have actually achieved that. And so we hear labels like dysfunctional and messy, but is that so bad? Like every family to a degree has some sort of dysfunction because we're human. And every time you deal with humans, guess what? Life gets messy because life is like that, you know? Life is complicated, messy, and complex, and so are our families. My encouragement to you is not to run from the complexity and the mess, but rather let God work in it. Allow God to get in there and work with the mess. And the first family relationship that you want God to work in, that will set the tone and the building blocks for your whole family, is your marriage. Now, your marriage is the most important relationship you have outside of a relationship with Christ. Together with Jesus at the center of it, okay, you can have a strong foundation from which to build your family from. Now, if you're not married, don't tune me out, okay? Because this is for you guys too. And even if you never have plans to get married, you've got friends and family members who are, and this will help you understand maybe what they're going to go through, and it might even give you some pointers on how to help them because they're going to find themselves in conflict and a rut and that sort of thing down the road. And you can say, hey, go on and watch this Radiant Church message to help you out. All of us want to see healthy marriages. We want healthy marriages for us and for our kids and our friends. We don't want to see a divorce. You know, divorce destroys so much. In fact, one of the reasons many millennials are skipping marriage altogether is because of the pain they experience through parents who are divorced. In fact, half of millennials are living together with no plans to get married ever. 2/3 of the kids born today are going to be born to parents who aren't married. I mean, they're living together, right? At least for a time. But at some point, that relationship will probably end. And one parent's going to move out, and even though a marriage didn't take place, those kids will still have 2 different families and experience life in a very similar manner to the kids whose parents divorced. Now, I know the trend is to move in and see if the whole marriage thing is going to work, right, before actually committing to it. I hear pastors and leaders all the time express this desire to change that trend. But divorce is not the only source behind the troubling trend of living together. The miserable marriages have just as much of an impact, right? I mean, think about it. How many people do you know are truly happy in their current marriage? It's not as many as you think. They're talking about separation. They're talking about how they're just two different people who aren't compatible anymore. They're talking about all the fights they've had and how they never go out. And if we can just be real for a moment, okay, how their sex lives are pretty much dead. So come on, like, you know what I'm talking about. In fact, you might be there today. That might even describe your current situation. And younger people see that. Who wants to be married when that's your future, right? And one thing this pandemic has done in 2020, it's revealed to your kids just how healthy or unhealthy your marriage really is. You can't spend this much time with your spouse and not have tension or conflict. That's just normal, right? But what isn't normal is that we're deep into this shutdown, depending where you live, and the tension hasn't eased, and the conflicts haven't stopped, and you might be trying to hide it so your kids don't see. You might try to deal with it on your own, but your kids, man, they're not stupid. Like, they get it. They can at least sense that something isn't right between you two. And it's not like you wanted this. You wanted your marriage to work. And you've tried a lot of different options to get healthy again, but they haven't worked like you thought they would, have they? So that's you. I want to share 4 foundational, practical keys with you for having a healthy marriage this morning. If your marriage is already healthy, if you're not married yet, hey, this is for you too. Use them as tools to help you stay healthy. Now, these keys are based in Scripture, and they're also keys that my wife and I have used in our own marriage, and they're keys that people who've been married for 30 and 50 plus years have used also. So this pandemic has exposed some big holes in your marriage. If you want to stay healthy in your current marriage, if things are going pretty well, or if you just want to learn some important foundational keys to building a healthy marriage for you guys who aren't married yet. Listen, this message is very important. So let's get started, okay? The first key to having a healthy, stable marriage is simply this. You got to focus on the positives. Focus on the positives. Proverbs 27:15 and 16 says this, that a quarrelsome wife is as annoying as constant dripping on a rainy day. Stopping her complaints is like trying to stop the wind or trying to hold something with greased hands. Okay, so let me make a really important clarification here, okay? It doesn't matter if the person we just read about is a woman or a man, because some of you have husbands who sound just like that woman, right? So listen, the point is that the spouse is looking for something to be negative about. That's the constant dripping. It's this constant negativity. They're determined to always focus on the negative. That's why the author says it's like trying to stop the wind. You just can't do it, right? If you look for something hard enough, you're going to find it. Vultures look for things that are dead. Hummingbirds, they look for life-giving nectar. And both are constantly searching for what they desire. And you know what? They're going to find what they're searching for. Here's the takeaway. If you're only searching for the negatives and the criticisms in your spouse, you know what? You're going to find what you're searching for. You're going to find all the negatives. You're going to view your spouse in a negative light. And if you search for the positive and the lovely things, you'll find those too. There's no magic pill here. It's really up to you what you find in your marriage. Are you looking for what's lovely and positive about your spouse, or are you only focused on all the things which irritate and frustrate you? It's funny how what initially attracted us to our spouse later becomes what irritates us, right? We're just so different. I'm sort of a nerdy kind of guy. I love reading and research. I love to write. I love to golf and play sports. I'm a bit of a clean freak at heart a little bit. My wife, though, is the exact opposite. She'll leave dishes in the sink all day, and I promised I'd let you guys know that she does clean them at the end of the day. Okay, so honey, I did say it, right? But I want them clean now, so that's our difference there. She can build anything. Like, she has all kinds of great carpentry skills. Can I be real with you? I can't. I can't even build Lincoln logs. She loves to take life easy and arrive on time, but I have a heart attack if I don't get somewhere 5 to 10 minutes early, which, for the record, we're never late because of me. But what makes everything work so well for us, even though we're so different, is the fact that God brought 2 totally different people together and united us. You need to allow the reasons you fell in love in the first place to bring you joy and flourish, right? And while we're here for a moment, instead of trying to change your spouse and criticize and focus on all those negatives, why don't you praise the positives and decide instead to change yourself? Like, our thoughts shouldn't be, how can I change him? How can I change her? They ought to be, what can I do or say which will allow my spouse to be their very best by God's design? So focus on the positives. Now to get to the second key, I got to admit something to you that a lot of you are going to find like completely improbable, but it's absolutely true. So in a decade of marriage, Shayna and I, we've never had a huge, major, knockdown, drag out, intense fight. We've argued and we've had conflicts. We've never thrown things at each other, right? We never called each other names. We've never used profanity. We've never fought to the point where one person was in tears. We've never, ever threatened to leave the other person or threatened to issue divorce or whatever as part of our way of overcoming a conflict. That's never been an option for us. Now, I know right now that some of you are thinking, wow, that's crazy, but you just haven't been together long enough, man. You're too young. You just don't know yet. That's actually not it. And I'm going to tell you why we've never had an intense fight like that in a moment. And it stems from a decision we made early on when we first got engaged. And I'll share that here in just a second. But our plan for handling conflict is that we decided early on we're going to adopt in some engagement conversations this important plan that we will never, ever keep score. That's the second key here. Learn not to keep score. In 1 Corinthians 13:5, we read that love doesn't keep records of being wrong. I think too many people keep score in marriages. What I mean by that is this, that you don't forgive and bury what the other person's done. In fact, what you do, it's more important for you to win the argument, so what you do is you want to come out on top as the victor. And so you begin to kind of pull up some things from the past. So when a fight breaks out and the intensity ratchets up and the argument kind of goes crazy and you realize you're not getting the upper hand, what you end up doing is you call your spouse out on something they did last week. So what do? Well, they remember what you did maybe last month, And so all of a sudden the argument begins to rage and get more intense and you keep finding things to bring back from each other's past until finally one of you brings out something deeply hurtful, something deeply wrong, and it shuts the other person down. See, they thought you'd forgiven them. They thought you'd put this behind you years ago, but now it's kind of out in the open again. And they realized, wait a minute, wow, this is really hurtful. I thought you forgave me. That was just lip service. It didn't really mean anything. You still see me this way. You still think about that. And all of a sudden, they don't want to fight anymore. So congrats, you win the argument, but you lost your spouse. If we took a poll asking how many of you have an experience like that over the last 6 months, I think the results would be pretty staggering. Let me tell you why it's so important that we never keep score. Because not keeping score actually reflects the character of God. Check out what God says to Isaiah in chapter 43, verse 25. It says, yes, I alone will blot out your sins for my own sake, and I'll never think of them again. You know what God's saying? Man, he's saying he doesn't forget our sins. Now, this is important because, he's God. He doesn't forget anything. In fact, you don't forget the things your spouse does to you either, right? Of course not. You keep that with you. It's sort of like a part of you. But what God does is something that's even greater. He buries our sin. He forgives us, and he makes a conscious decision not to remember, or in other words, not to bring up what we've done ever again. God will never throw your sin back in your face. Once he forgives you, he chooses to never bring it up again because he doesn't keep score, and neither should we. So forgive your husband, forgive your wife, bury those wrongs 6 feet under, choose not to bring them up again, move on and let them go. And back to those engagement talks I talked about earlier. Hey, those are really important too. And part of why Shayna and I don't get into intense arguments is because, we don't keep score. But we also chose a long time ago what we would argue about. We decided how to raise our kids when we first got engaged. We chose how to handle finances when we first got engaged. We chose how to do a lot of things early on in our engagement phase and committed ourselves to living by those principles. So because of that, we don't fight over money. We don't fight over how to raise Ezra and Noah. We know what our principles are for parenting and financing, and we know how they guide our decisions. And I'm picking those two topics because more fights break out over finances and parenting than anything else in a marriage. So when you create principles and guidelines for those major decisions early on, it'll radically change your relationship. So the two most common arguments married couples have, they were eliminated before Shayna and I ever said I do, because instead of focusing on the wedding, we focused on the family we wanted to build during our engagement. So here's the third key for a healthy, stable marriage, okay? And that's this: learn to ask for help. I've talked to numerous married couples over the years who have issues and they want solutions to their marriage, and all of them are different. But there's one key denominator which ties all the different people together, and that's this: they don't often ask for help. They want their marriage to get stronger, they want it to be healthy, but they don't want to put down their pride and say, man, you know what, we need help. Now, eventually, one spouse will have enough and they'll want to get help, but the other spouse, they'll still say, nope, I'm good, I don't need it. Sometimes I would get a response like this: well, hey, Pastor, that's nice of you, but we'll handle it on our own. We're adults here. Okay, I get that. I get that we're all adults and we're big boys and girls, fine. But can I tell you this, that if your marriage is in trouble and you aren't asking for help, it's only a matter of time before that division gets wider and wider and it comes to an end. You cannot fix your marriage on your own. When my truck has an issue, it doesn't fix itself, right? Like, I don't wait for my truck to fix itself. I don't hope my truck will get its act together in a couple of weeks. I have to take it to somebody who knows what they're doing, who can look at it, and through a process can repair that issue so my truck can return to running on its full potential. You can't fix your marriage all on your own. You need help. Proverbs 13:10 says that pride leads to conflict, and those who take advice are wise. Stay in 13 for a moment. Look down to verse 13. People who despise advice are asking for trouble. And then a couple of chapters later, 15:22, plans go wrong for lack of advice, but many advisors bring success. There's something that the book of wisdom, as Proverbs is known, is trying to tell us here, and that's this: that we need help. It's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. The opposite really is true. It's a sign of weakness for you to give in to your pride and refuse wisdom, which can help repair the problem your marriage is having. You might say, well, Pastor, we just don't have time for counseling. Well, you got to make time, or else you're going to make time for a divorce later. Like that's what's going to happen. You got to get help. Now, I know this is a hard key for some of you, right? Like, I want your marriage to thrive. And asking for help and asking for help from the right people is just so important. Just don't turn to the guy who's been divorced 3 times for help. Don't turn to the person whose life is a mess. Look at the couple who's been married for 50 years, okay? Shayna and I are pretty blessed. We had parents and grandparents who were married for 30 and 50 plus years. So for us, it was always a no-brainer. We look to them as models for what a healthy marriage looks like. They're not perfect, and they've had their shares of ups and downs, but they're healthy marriages. We don't go to our unmarried friends for help. They have no idea what a marriage relationship is like yet, We don't go to family members or friends who've had a bunch of different marriages for advice either, because they haven't been married long enough to one person. We look to the people who've done it God's way for multiple decades. I'm telling you, you don't stay married for long periods of time in our world anymore without doing something right. So ask for help. Don't fix it on your own, and your marriage will come back healthier and stronger than it was before. Here's the final key this morning. And it's one that you probably haven't even seriously thought about. But this last key to a healthy, stable marriage is simply this: laugh a lot. You say, Pastor, this is kind of crazy. Why is that important? Proverbs 17:22 says this: that a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit saps a person's strength. The great thing about God is that he's full of joy. Like, God's full of love. He's full of laughter. It drives me crazy when I post a joke or humor on social media, and that one person, because there's always like one person, that one person will post something super spiritual and serious in response. It's like some people forget that God's got an incredible sense of humor in the first place. I think so often we make God out to be this super serious, King James accented person who never smiles and never jokes and never laughs, Listen, if you ever doubt the humor and the fun that God has, go on Wikipedia, look up the platypus. I bet it was the last animal God made. Can you imagine? Hey, Gabriel, come here for a second. Watch this. They'll never get this thing. They'll never figure it out. The platypus has webbed feet, a duck bill. It lays eggs, but it's a mammal, and the males have venomous spurs. The first scientist to discover one in 1799, he actually thought somebody played a prank by sewing different types of animals together. You tell me God didn't have a good laugh at that one, right? Like, when you laugh and you have fun, you begin to focus on the positives. You forget all about the argument, And you actually draw closer together. In fact, laughter, it produces antibodies in us that relieve stress and pain, and check this out, heart disease, right? God knew what he was doing when he programmed us to laugh and to enjoy ourselves and to have fun. It lifts our spirits and it heals our brokenness. So a broken spirit saps a person's strength, the proverb says, right? So there's going to be multiple moments when one of you, and sometimes both of you, are going to be broken. And when we're broken, we don't have strength to do anything. We don't want to do anything. We get into a downcast mindset. We focus on the negatives. And suddenly our world has gone from colorful skies to gray, right? And it's in those moments where you really need a good laugh to start healing in your soul. Some years ago, we were living in Charleston. This is back before we had kids. I was a campus pastor. Shayna was a nurse. We were having a difficult, hard time. In fact, Shayna had a hard time with an issue that had been following her around for a few years. And so I came home one day. I couldn't find her anywhere. And all of a sudden, I heard the garage door shut. So I was thinking, well, she's gone into the garage to do something I can't do. You know, that's where all the tools are and the workbench and everything is. And so, but I go into the garage, and she's having a massive breakdown. You know, she gets her key out, and she's trying to open the car door, and I tried not to laugh because she forgot it was keyless entry. You know, she got frustrated and threw the key down, and she slammed against the door and kind of slid to the bottom of the garage, and she was just sobbing, and I had never seen her like that before. I'd never experienced this with her, and in that moment, I felt really helpless. That's the worst feeling, by the way, for a husband, to feel helpless. I think God biologically, psychologically, emotionally programmed men to be leaders and providers and caretakers, and when men don't know what to do, we can't fix it, it's like the worst feeling on the planet. I have no idea how to fix the situation that we're in right now, and she's dealing with it in a way that's way above me. The only thing I need to do was wrap my arms around her and just cry with her. And for an hour, we just sat on the floor together in our dinky garage, and we were just crying. And then I got an idea, and I said, hey, baby, you know what we're going to do this weekend? We're going to go to Myrtle Beach. Now, Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, it means different things to different people, okay? But to us, it's the putt-putt capital of the world. When my wife and I play putt-putt, dude, it is cutthroat. It's trash talk. I mean, you can't come play putt-putt with us if you want fun, because we don't roll like that. It is all about winning on that putt-putt course. But in that moment, we just knew we needed to have fun. So the only time in our marriage, this is no joke, as sad as it may be, when putt-putt wasn't a competition was that day. We took off to Myrtle Beach. We had fun. We looked really stupid. We looked goofy. We shot between our legs. We did crazy things at different putt-putt places. We walked on the boardwalk, all that kind of stuff. We had so much fun. And what happened was healing started to occur in her life. Now, the issue was still there after, but it didn't rob her of her joy. It didn't break her. You know why? Because the Proverbs tells us this, that laughter is cheerful medicine. A couple years ago, God did a miracle. The issue was taken care of. But we've never forgotten how powerful that lesson on laughter was. Can't tell you how many times we've had days where one of us was hurting and the other one was there, not just to walk through the pain, but to bring joy and laughter and so much fun that we forgot about our pain and our brokenness. We began to experience healing. I think one of the best things about being married is just being able to laugh with each other and laugh at each other, you know, sometimes. Because when we're experiencing joy, we're not experiencing brokenness. Instead, we're experiencing healing. 4 keys can help you build a healthy, stable marriage. Focus on the positives. Never keep score. Ask for help. Laugh a lot. These practices by themselves are not going to guarantee you a healthy, stable marriage, but they'll help you build one and retain one. But there is one key which can absolutely guarantee a lasting, healthy, stable marriage for you. And it's the most important, and it's a relationship with Jesus. If you build your marriage on Christ and he becomes the center of everything you do, I can absolutely assure you, you will have a healthy marriage. In fact, all these keys we shared this morning emanate from that relationship with Jesus. They're part of his character. They're part of his nature. And when he's at the center, and he's the foundation for what you're building your marriage on, you will have a healthy, stable family home. And what if you made the decision today to place Christ at the center What if the real reason your marriage is on shaky ground this morning is not because of the pandemic or the lies or the addictions or even the affair? What if it's because for years Jesus has been absent? Well, today you can right that ship. You can make a decision to follow Christ and place him at the core of your marriage. Because if Jesus is the foundation, you're going to be on the path to a healthy, stable, lasting marriage for the rest of your life. Now, one which will have plenty of ups and downs, but in the end, it'll be a marriage that your kids can look up to, your kids can learn from. Maybe you and your spouse, you're already following Christ, but you're experiencing a rut. And you've hit some bumps, and some of the keys we've talked about today, they've really hit you kind of hard, right? You know you got to focus on the positives. You know you need to stop keeping score. You know you need to ask for help. You know you need to laugh more. So what if you started employing those keys in your marriage? And what kind of change could God bring to your relationship? Let me pray with you here this morning. Hey, God, we love you. Lord, I thank you for all the families and married couples and folks who are watching here today. Lord, I pray first of all for those married couples who need to make you the center of their marriage. Right now, if that would be you and you just say, hey, Pastor, we want to make Christ the center. We want to accept that invitation that he has for us. All you got to do is pray a prayer like this together. Just say, hey, Jesus, we accept your invitation. We want to be a part of your world and your kingdom. Be the center of our marriage. Forgive us, unite us, and lead us. And those will be the beginning steps of a healthy marriage with Christ at the center. And God, I thank you for those couples who've just prayed to invite you, Lord, into their marriage. They're wanting to step into your world, into your kingdom, and in doing so, they're saying, God, come to our marriage and be the center. Come to our marriage, God, and repair things that are broken. Come to our marriage, Lord, and repair things that have been hurt. Lord, I pray you would restore broken hearts, and God, you'd bring forgiveness, and that, God, you'd bring grace and love. And Lord, I pray for those married couples who've made that important first step, that you would help them to continue on a path forward that is healthy and stable and life-giving for their marriage and also for their family. Lord, for those married couples who realize they're following you, but they're kind of in a tough place right now. They've started keeping score. They started, they started bringing back things that were hurtful from the past, hurting each other in arguments, God, and fights. Lord, I pray that they would stop doing those things. Lord, I pray for those who are always negative and they're always critical. And awaken them to understand this morning, hey, I need to focus on the positives. I need to focus on my spouse and the design that God has for them. Lord, I pray that you would help them to begin to walk and live out these keys we talked about here today, to focus on the positives, to not keep score, Lord, to laugh a lot, God, to begin to ask for help if they need it. We can't fix things on our own. We need people to help us and to guide us. Lord, I pray for that this morning for those married couples, that they'll begin to live those keys out. And as they do, God, you begin to breathe life back into their marriage again. You begin to Lord, bring forgiveness back to their marriage and bring love and grace back into their marriage again, God, I pray. And Lord, I thank you for all these families who have gathered around, who are watching here this morning, Lord, that you would just continue to keep your hand upon them, bless them, give them favor, Lord, I pray. Thank you that when we put our faith and our trust in you, Lord, you never let us down. God, that you can always bring what we might think is falling apart and broken. You can always bring it back to life again. And I thank you for the many marriages that you're bringing back to life here this morning. We love you, we praise you, and we ask this in your name. Amen. If you made a decision to follow Christ this morning, hey, reach out to us, DM us, head to our website, radiantchurchsc.com, and contact us so we can celebrate with you. We're excited that you've chosen to make this decision not only for you, but also for your marriage. Radiant Church is launching this fall, and if you'd like to learn more about us or join our team or support us by giving, you can head to our website as well. Even if you're not local, maybe you're in another state or a city that's not near here, but you feel Radiant Church is for you. You can still join our team. In fact, I'd love to connect with you and walk through what it can look like for you to be a part of Radiant Church, even if you're not in the Seneca, Clemson area right here in South Carolina. There is still a place for you, so let's talk. Coming up on our Facebook page, 11 a.m., we're going to have a Radiant Kids preschool lesson, and then our Radiant Kids elementary lesson will follow that at 11:30 a.m. We want you to know that, hey, we are praying for you and with you, that God would bless your marriage and your family. If this message really impacted you, hey, if God did a great work in you, don't keep this to yourselves. Let people know. Share this teaching on your social pages. Tag your friends. Pray with us that God will impact their lives and their marriages too. One last note, if you are local and you are here in the Seneca-Clemson area, we are going to start in-person launch team meetings again on Sunday, May 17th. More information about that reopening, if you will, is going to be sent out in an email on Monday morning. If you're not part of our team yet, you can click Join Our Team on our Facebook page or go to our website and click the Join Our Team tab. You'll be part of our email list and you'll get those details as well. And we hope that if you're in the area, that we'll be able to see you next week. Have an amazing rest of your day and happy Mother's Day to all our moms out there. Moms, we love you guys. Have a good one. See you next week.